So this certain kind of question has been coming up over the last few days or so, and the form of it varies, but it's essentially something like this. I've heard about non-doership. I've heard about there being no agent or no choice maker, and yet I still feel like I'm making choices. I still feel like I'm planning. I still feel like I have to think about what I'm going to do, or maybe think about what I want to avoid. And all of this feels very real to me. It feels real that I'm making choices, that I'm making decisions and planning and so forth. So I just want to be really simple about this, because this is the kind of thing that really stirs the mind up, really gets you up in your head. So I want to give a very simple answer for this, and then I'll unpack it a bit. But the simple answer is the key. The simple answer is, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If there are thoughts saying, oh, well, darn it, I have to plan something, but maybe I shouldn't be having to plan. I should just trust life to just do whatever it does because it's already doing it, and there's no one here to plan. And that's just a bunch of thoughts. Don't worry about it. If you want to plan something, plan it. If you feel inclined to plan, plan. If you feel inclined to eat, eat. If you feel inclined to write, write. Do whatever feels simple, direct, obvious, and the most meaningful thing for you to do at any moment. And don't think more about it than that. Don't overanalyze. Don't second guess. Don't entertain too many thoughts about, oh, well, what if I choose this or that? Or, but if I'm choosing, then am I out of alignment with my deeper truth? Because there were times when it felt like there was no one doing anything, and now it feels like I'm doing something, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. Again, all of that is just thought. When you notice it, just notice it. That's just the mind doing what it does. It's producing thoughts. You're not doing any of that. None of that has to do with you. None of that has to do with anyone. It's simply a reflection. It's a reflection of what's happening. The mind is trying to draw a picture of what's happening in the best way it can, in a way that seems meaningful to the thought process, but there's no one that thought process is about. There's nothing specific that thought process is about. It's just an activity of mind. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you're enlightened. It doesn't mean you're unenlightened. It doesn't mean there's a doer. It doesn't mean there's no doer. Don't get entangled in thoughts, and especially conceptualizing about doership and will. That's kind of looking in the wrong direction or moving in the wrong direction when it comes to specifically to the doctrine of no self and no doership, and the will, the personal will, being ultimately an illusion. The where to look isn't into the thoughts about it or into the concepts about it. Where to look is more into your present experience, into the sensations. Just feel what's happening. See what's happening. See what is appearing. There's just the forms, the colors, the shapes. Feel. There's just sensations. That's it. Those sensations don't actually hold any information like location, whose sensations they are, whose sensations they're not, whether they're mapped to a body or not, whether they're non-dualistic or dualistic. None of that information is in the sensation. The sensation is just what it is. So feel and hear. The sound is just the sound. There's nothing more to it. There's no information about someone hearing. There's no information about no one hearing. There's no information about whether or not I moved my attention to hearing. There's just the heard, just the sound, just what's there. This is the right direction if you're interested in clarifying non-doership, non-agency. It's not analysis. Analysis is never really helpful with any of this in particular, and I say that a lot. But with this, in this specific area, it's like just like pouring gas or kerosene onto a fire that's already lit. It really doesn't help, and it just makes it worse. So thinking about this is not helpful. Now again, when you are noticing the just hearing or just what's heard, the sound, when you're noticing the sensations or the flavors maybe you're eating, or the scent in the air, or you're just seeing just what's there, just the scene. When that's occurring, There may be some thoughts. The thoughts may say, oh, well, I'm not sure if this is clear. Oh, I remember when it happened to me before and it was much clearer. There was a non-dual experience, but it's not here right now. And that's just thinking. In the same way that there's just the seen, there's just the cognized. Just one thought. That's it. Just a thought. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't have to lead to another thought. Doesn't have to lead to a conclusion. Doesn't have to lead to analysis. That's a thought. You could also say it's consciousness. It's the reflective nature of mind, nothing more. It's that simple. So that's the simplicity of what I recommend if you get yourself entangled in, well, there's a sense of a doer, or I feel like I need to plan, but then I feel guilty, or like I'm judging myself for having to plan, and is that necessary? And or second guessing what you've done, that you made this decision, you should have made that one, and then second guessing yourself because you're thinking about decisions, but you're supposed to be a non-doer, right? If any of that stuff's going on, just come back to that simple answer, that simple pointing that I just gave. It's in the senses. The truth is in the senses. You don't need anything more than that. It'll just continue to unfold naturally, simply, innocently, and in its own sort of language. The heard is just the heard. That's its language. The felt is just the felt. That's its language. No analysis is needed. So simple. That's the beauty of this. So non-doership isn't a doctrine. Non-doership is just this, experiencing reality as it is. And not calling it reality, and not calling it experience, and not talking about it, and not recording it, and not managing it, and not planning how you're going to talk to someone else about it, or any of it. It's just this, what we feel, what we hear, what we see. Full on, full immersion. And the full immersion is always there for you. No matter how much noise the mind is making, even if there's just no gap between thoughts, it's just thought after thought after thought after thought, the heard is here. The seen is here. The sensation is here. Pure sensing. This is about pure sensing. Go there and stay there. That's the whole teaching from beginning to end.